Hey, good afternoon. We are officially live. I'm a little bit sweaty. I actually got out for, I know this sounds, I'm not bragging, really. I'm just saying this very matter of fact. My second hike today. I had to do 2 hikes today, and I think sometimes that might be required. What are you doing to get out and to stay active? Like, do you have a park nearby? Where are you going to keep yourselves active? I'm super curious about that. So I just went on another hike, brand new hike. I'm always excited to discover new hikes. And if you want to take some pictures of hikes that you're taking to keep your sanity, even if it's walking your dog or walking your child, whatever the case might be, we'd love to see it. Hey, Molly, thank you so much for joining us. Molly she's actually my sister-in-law. So I don't pay family members to join my lives, although there have been moments where I've been tempted to. Yes, Father Abraham is on the line. Vieira Bloodline is actually, I guess I can share this. So Vieira Bloodline is Abraham met him down in Waikiki before the whole shutdown, and he owns one of the only light blue zip hoodies. Actually, only one in Hawaii, and he's going to do some work for us, but we got shut down. So Abraham, we are going to connect and meet up with you. Praise and Q, thank you so much for joining. So I'm actually really excited. I have Leslie, who is here with us from Aloha Harvest. We want to talk about this just a little bit. You know, so many people are wondering how can they help and what can they do to get involved. And I was thinking about this earlier. If you've ever been on a cruise or if you've ever gone to Las Vegas, you know, you see these locations that just have massive amounts of food, and you think, you know, what happens to that when it's all done? And I remember a family in California where we lived years ago. One night she showed up at our house with a bag of bagels. And what I learned was that they would go in the evenings to Panera Bread, and they would get the bread that was left over or whatever hadn't been sold, or they would go to the local bakeries, and they would take that food around. And I thought, man, what a really noble thing to do, you know, to dedicate your time. It was always late in the evening, as you can imagine, and to keep it from going bad or spoiling, and they would give that out. Well, we're in a really fascinating time right now where all of a sudden there are people who are in need and there's food that is wasted. And we have been looking at organizations. We found Aloha Harvest here on Oahu, here in Hawaii. They've been in business for a number of years, and they are a nonprofit. And we're going to interview Leslie. I think she's there. We're going to bring her in right now. She's been so great to with this. So let's see if Leslie joins. Hey, there you are.
Hi, Chris.
Aloha, how are you?
Aloha. Good. I've got you propped up on a peanut butter jar on my desk because that's
okay, Leslie, I just have to know, will you turn the camera around? I have one question that I know everyone who's watching has the same question.
What is the question? Yeah, I'll turn it.
Yeah, you know what it is. I want to see the peanut butter jar.
Wait.
Here's what I need to know.
Let me turn. Can I flip?
You can, yeah.
There we go. There it is.
Jif, okay, wait. Turn the jar just a little bit.
It's Jif.
Is it creamy or is it chunky?
Creamy.
That's what we need to know.
It's creamy.
Jif creamy. Okay, that should tell you a lot about our good friend Leslie. Thank you so much. Yeah. So you're propped up on a peanut butter jar. I'm actually in a borrowed empty house that I knew was en route because I knew I wasn't going to get to where I needed to get to in time to do this, which was why I'm all glowing and glistening like this. So yeah, I mean, I'm like barely ahead of you from being propped up on a peanut butter jar. But creamy. And is Jif your peanut butter of choice? I have to know that.
It usually, like, Jif is if I'm treating myself to the less healthy version. You know, like, I like to try to get an organic version, but Jif, it's just like if I want good peanut butter that I don't have to stir, then I get it.
If you want comfort peanut butter, right? The stuff that's really going to satisfy you. Yeah.
Which is why I have it right now during COVID-19.
So a little bit of comfort creamy peanut butter. Oh, it's so good. We actually, you know, we have the Costco tubs of Skippy in our closet right now. And I remember when you would get these, you think, when am I ever going to go through a tub of this much creamy peanut butter? And it's like one of them's already gone. So I think we're probably in the same boat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, thank you so much for doing this. And telling us a little bit about Aloha Harvest. How long have you been with Aloha Harvest now, Leslie?
Yeah, so I joined the Aloha Harvest team in November of last year. So I think that makes it 5 months.
Coming up on
November,
5 months.
February, March. Yeah, actually, I'm coming up on 6 at the end of this month because I joined right at the beginning of November. So
Fantastic. And I'm curious, there's a lot of organizations clearly, on Oahu, companies to go for. What was it about Aloha Harvest that drew you in? What were you attracted to there?
yeah, I really like how it's a close look at the issue of hunger. It takes a more complex approach and holistic in that it is about feeding people who are hungry, but it's also about um, reducing our landfill waste and reducing
Mm,
our carbon footprint. And it's just really like, as we get into it and talk about Aloha Harvest, I just feel like it's a win-win-win for everyone involved. So, and just, I really like it's a small team. And
yeah,
so it's a small team culture where you have the opportunity to be a person, right? And like connect with people and not so corporate. That you kind of can lose when you get into much larger spaces.
I
Um,
do. I do
yeah.
know. I was like employee number 12,000 of a 30,000 employee company at one time. And I remember seeing that in my personal record and thinking, I'm nobody, right?
Right.
So, yeah. How many people are on staff there at Aloha Harvest?
Yeah, so I'm one of three of our office staff currently, and then we
Wow.
have 8 drivers who are really the heroes who are out there and the faces everybody knows, the ones actually picking up and redistributing the excess food.
Yeah. So you have 8 drivers. Where all do you commonly service? Where do you pick up from? Where do you deliver to?
Yeah, so if you want, that's a good segue. I can just answer that while kind of just introducing Aloha Harvest as a whole and
Yeah,
um,
that'd be
what
great.
we do. Yeah, so I'll answer that question of where are we service, but just as some backdrop, we've been around for 20 years. We're a
Mm,
nonprofit, and we exist to bridge the gap between two facts, which is first off, that 1 in 5 people in Hawaii depends on food pantries for assistance. And the second fact is that we as a state throw away 237,000 tons of food every year. That comes out.
whoa.
Yeah, so we have this crazy facts, right, where we have so many people struggling with hunger, and yet we're throwing away about 26% of our local food supply every year.
Say
And
that
that's
number one
perfectly good
again.
food.
26% of our local food supply goes to waste.
Yep. 237,000 tons every year of perfectly good food. And so we exist to bridge that gap.
Yeah.
Um, Basically, the idea behind us, and if you zoom out and look at it globally, it's even higher. As a world, we waste about a third of all the food that we produce. And the UN has put out a statement that if we were to rescue and redistribute all that food that we waste, we could actually solve world hunger 4 times over. So, yeah,
Amazing.
it's pretty crazy when you learn about it. So,
Yeah.
with that in mind, we and all food rescue organizations, we're one of about 50 recognized food rescue nonprofits in the US. Our approach to hunger is that the issue isn't a lack of resources, the issue is a food system that is wasteful and that doesn't
Mm,
equitably distribute the resources that we actually have more than enough of.
yeah.
Um, so our model is that free of charge and free of liability because we're protected by state and federal legislation to do this. We pick up excess food from about 250 different food donors per year. And that
Okay.
includes grocery stores, wholesale distributors, restaurants, even just individuals who may be throwing a luau and think they're going to have some extra pans of rice or chicken. And we redistribute that to about 175 different nonprofits and agencies that are feeding the hungry. And we do that 7 days a week. And to answer your actual question, finally getting to it, we cover the whole island every week.
So
So,
you're on Oahu. So you're literally
oh, Ahu,
north to
yeah,
south. Yeah. North to south, east to west, right? Windward to leeward
yeah,
side. You cover the whole
yeah.
thing. Amazing. 7 days a week. I think it's fascinating. I don't think a lot of people here would realize that percentage, right? 26% of our produced food here, and really in perspective, it's not big, right? We're not a big island, but 26% is so much waste.
Yeah,
I think
especially when we import so much of our food, right? So we spend
yeah.
so much money and resources to get it to us, and then
Ooh,
to be turning around and throwing it away it's also like an economic loss, right? Not just the loss of being able to help feed our people.
Yeah. It's fascinating. I really wanted a fried chicken last night for my family. I was gonna do fried chicken. I got this recipe from a friend in the South, and I'm like, oh, we're so excited. And my wife texted me from Foodland, yeah, and she said it bottle of oil was $18.
Oh my gosh.
$18 for a bottle of oil. So when you say that, our cost is so high to bring the food in, to produce the food, to see so much go to waste. Now I'm curious, you mentioned this. Aloha Ree, thank you for joining. Um, you mentioned 1 in 5
Hmm.
Hawaiians are going hungry. They go to bed hungry at night. Can you share with us some of that demographic? Are they children? Are they aunties? Are they, right? Tell me a little about that demographic of those who are going hungry.
Right. So the demographic is wide ranging, and the demographic of people who are hungry, who Aloha Harvest supports through our partner, our recipient agencies, it ranges from people who are struggling with homelessness
Hmm.
to people who are in transitional shelters because of domestic violence or because they're recovering from
Mm.
substance abuse, to kids who might have dropped out of high school and are trying to get their GED and they're in a program where they can get their education. But this is one thing I love about the agencies we partner with is a lot of them, their sole focus isn't just food and hunger. It's holistically empowering people. And when we're able to provide free food for them, which already was just going to end up in a landfill, but it's perfectly good to eat, it frees
Yeah.
up their budget to put their resources into those other really empowering pieces like education, like shelter, like job training. Um, so it's really all over the place as far as our recipient agencies and who they serve.
I'm actually getting choked up thinking about this because I love that whole approach in that I don't know why this hit me so deeply all of a sudden. I love that whole approach in that if you can take away the hunger
Mm-hmm.
from the individual, they can focus on other things, right? It allows them to focus on other things. If you take away the hunger from the child, they can focus on their homework. If you can take away the hunger from the mom, she can focus on whatever things need to be taken care of there, or the student or the professional, right?
Yes.
Um, there was a study, this was done in Guatemala years ago, and there was a study that was done. They thought if they put money into education for these individuals, that was the inhibiting factor, prohibiting factor from them going on to develop professionally. And what they actually found was it started with nutrition when
Mm.
they were young, from that infant to about 3 years old. Without proper nutrition, they didn't have proper brain development and everything else. And so when we see this, like you mentioned, I love this holistic approach of partnering with organizations that really are stemming to solve a bigger problem, not just hunger in the moment.
Hmm. And
That's
we
amazing.
do both because a lot of our partners are just solving hunger in the moment, and I feel like you need both, right? Because people have to eat today, but then they also need support from a system that will help them to where they're able to become self-sustaining. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, I'd love to hear from you. Shirley, coming into Aloha Harvest, it's an organization with a tremendous mission. You're doing so much good, especially for this beautiful land and the people. What has been one of your aha moments? What did it open your eyes to? I presume you grew up here on Oahu.
Oh yeah, actually I didn't.
What?
Which thank you. I'm very flattered you would assume I grew up here because it's such, like you said, it's such a beautiful land, such a beautiful culture and people. But yeah, I actually grew up moving around most of my life. I was an army brat. And
Okay.
I just moved here last fall because my brother and sister both live here. They both moved out here within the last couple of years, and I have nieces here, so I get to be an auntie for the first time. And
Hey, congratulations.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
But sorry, okay, so an aha
yeah,
moment.
did you have an aha moment? Something that you went, whoa.
Yeah. I have two, but if we have
Uh,
time for only one, I'll start with this one.
No,
So my
listen,
first
we can
one,
talk all night. I don't have anywhere I need to be, and you can see my kids aren't around me right now, Leslie. So, yes, let me grab some popcorn. Let's talk about your stories. I'd love to hear it.
awesome. Well, as long as my peanut butter jar setup holds up, I'm good as well.
Perfect.
Um, so my first aha moment was that when I first joined the team, I did ride along so that I could really get a feel for the process from start to finish a food rescue and redistribution. I'm normally not on the trucks with our awesome drivers. I'm normally, in the office or out in the community building up partnerships. But I rode along and just actually seeing it's different, hearing the numbers, even hearing individual stories. But
Hmm.
riding with a truck, we have 3 routes that normally run prior to COVID-19. And knowing you're one of 3 and watching it fill up with incredibly good food that I would eat and that I would feed to anyone I cared about. You know, it's bananas that are a couple days out from being a little spotty. It's yogurt that's 3 days out from its best by date. It's cereal boxes that are dented, so the manufacturer isn't going to sell it. It's a sports drink that's going out of, like, they're phasing it out. So there's 3 pallets of sports drink that they don't want to sell anymore.
Yeah.
So watching, you know, we have 16-foot box trucks, watching those fill up 2 or 3 times in just one day on one route, and knowing that would have gone into a landfill, but instead getting to meet the people at the agencies who are serving our people and seeing, you know, the face, like, it's fresh produce, it's fruits, it's good food. That was really just an aha that brought it, like, it's so real, right?
Yeah.
Both the amazingness that you're able to keep that out of the landfill and the good that it's doing for, just, again, all we have to do is just rescue it, just not be so wasteful and take that little extra step to distribute it equitably, right?
Hmm.
Because it just takes that little extra effort of picking it up, you know. And if our food system could eventually change to where food rescue was the norm, where companies just understood all we have to do is just send it on, instead of, like, if there's a better solution than just throwing it away. It's not all just about profit. It's about how much good can we do with the inventory that we're already spending money on anyway. Then that is my dream, is that eventually there would be food rescue would be the norm in every city, everywhere.
You know, I don't even think, as a consumer, I mean, just you sharing that story with me, a dented cereal box, a Gatorade that's changed flavors. I don't even think about when I'm there in the grocery store on one side of the aisle that if something can't be sold as new, that it just goes to waste, to a landfill on the other side.
Right.
Wow. Yeah, that would be a really jarring moment to see, like you said, to see the trucks fill up. I'd love
Yeah.
to hear your other story, your other
Yeah.
aha moment.
Yes, my other aha moment, which I'll just tuck in actually a quick fun fact on the landfill thing real quick before I do that, because I think
Yeah.
people think it's interesting. I thought it was interesting, that most people don't know, but landfill waste that comes from food actually produces methane, which is a greenhouse gas 25 times more potent than carbon dioxide.
Huh.
So it's not just like feeling good about keeping it out of the landfill. It's actually Project Drawdown, which is one of the best known nonprofits working on climate change solutions, has recommended food rescue as its top recommendation for scaling up that activity in order to help combat climate change. So that's
So
just another.
even my kids produce a lot of methane, so I understand what you're talking about. So
Right.
even, which is way more toxic than carbon dioxide. So sorry, kids, if you see this. So even the expended energy of rescuing the food, it's better for our environment to
Yeah.
rescue it than to send out multiple trucks in multiple cities, right? Than what we'd be expending there.
Yes.
Fascinating.
And that's another dream, is actually moving toward either electric or biofuel trucks. I'll just throw that out there. It's one of our dreams if anybody wants to wants to help fund that. But my other aha moment, I'll just share quickly, was with Kupu. Do you know Kupu?
No, tell me about Kupu.
So they are amazing. They're a nonprofit, one of the people that we used to deliver food to and no longer need to because they became self-sustaining. But they do, they help youth who have dropped out of high school get an education, get job training, but
Hmm.
they focus on sustainability in the environment. So they do job training and just like holistic kind of empowerment that relates to building leaders out of young
Yeah.
people who will understand the importance of our earth and the environment and how it supports us. So I got the chance to go and talk to them a couple months before COVID-19 hit and met some of their very first cohort, you know, young guys who would enter the program and they were like 16, 17, and learned that when they first entered the program, kind of like you mentioned, they were entering the program for the education piece, but they didn't have money to bring lunch from home. So they were just coming and like being hungry while they're trying to sit through class and trying to do this
Yeah.
stuff. So we started delivering food to them. And one of them in particular told me, I just remember Aloha Harvest dropped off this massive pallet of frozen sandwiches and it fed me and my family for like a month. And I even gave some out to my neighbors who were also struggling with food insecurity. And it was so, everyone was so excited by seeing like, wait, when we have food, everything goes way better, you know, that they actually started their own culinary program. So in addition to the sustainability education, they brought in a professional chef. They now have
Mm.
a certified kitchen, and they train kids who want to enter a culinary track to budget for and purchase healthy local food and prepare it. And they get certified to go work as caterers. And so now we actually don't have to deliver food to them because they created their own self-sustaining program. And that was just one of the really, really cool things.
Man, I'm seeing some wows and some hearts on here. I feel the same. I've got a 13-year-old who would love to enter a program like that. And if you're familiar with Kimmy Werner on the island, Kimmy Swimmy is her handle. And, she does a lot of diving. She's so pro earth and pro gardening and sustainability. And she just started today her YouTube channel on food
Oh,
prep.
cool.
And my 13-year-old came running out and he's like, Dad, you'll never believe Kimmy now has this channel on food prep. And when you talk about this from a holistic nature as well, this is where we go into schools. We talk a lot about being kind to the world around us. And one of the things we love as organizations that also talk to the students about this very thing about growing your own gardens. I think it's fascinating that in this time, families baking together is such a novelty that we put it on Instagram, right? Making bread is such a novelty where, gosh, 20 years ago, if we got creamy peanut butter and a loaf of bread from the store, Leslie, like that was a big deal, right?
Right.
Because it was always homemade bread and it was always dry and stale by the end of the week. And so, I think it's fascinating that this is such a great time to really introduce these concepts to the next generation to not only alleviate the hunger, but help them be aware of the waste and how to prepare and do these things. I sure appreciate you sharing that
Yeah.
with us. You mentioned COVID-19, and that's one of the reasons we're here today. So Do Good Be Kind has a really big goal. We would love to raise $5,000 for Aloha Harvest. And I know for their demand, it's a small amount. It's such a token amount. We'd love to raise that. You can donate directly to alohaharvest.org. You can also donate through Do Good Be Kind. We've created the Together Tee, and you can find that a portion of that goes there. And if you don't like tie-dye, cool. You can just donate directly there, and that goes directly to Aloha Harvest as well. Tell us about the demand. What have you seen in just the 6 months that you've been there, Leslie? I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, so what we've seen, I'd say March 2019 was the first month that COVID-19 really, like everyone here was feeling it, the economic impact. And we saw, again, this crazy dichotomy of there was more waste than ever because restaurants and the hotel industry and
Mm,
everyone was like, oh, we ordered the wrong amount, because they were being forced to change hours or convert to takeout, or some had to even
right.
down, which is so sad. But so there's actually we doubled the amount of food that we rescued last month. We went from this time last year, March last year, we rescued about 130,000 pounds of food. And this March, we rescued 260,000 pounds of food. And so we were very happy to be there. It was,
So
as you can
that's
imagine,
260,000 pounds in a month, correct?
in 1 month. Yes.
Wow,
Yeah.
260,000 pounds of food in 1 month. That's so much.
Yeah, we rescue over 1 million pounds of food per year.
Okay.
Um, so, which is great, but if you compare it to that number I shared earlier, we rescue 1 million pounds per year, but we're throwing away 237,000 tons. We're always
Yeah.
looking to grow. We have big dreams, but yeah, we doubled the amount of food we rescued, even while like food insecurity was just skyrocketing. First off, all the people who are already struggling with it are going to be the first who are hit the hardest. And that's always the sad thing about situations like this, where the people who are already struggling, just it hits them first. But
Yeah.
then we also have people who never before have had to go to a food pantry or request assistance, suddenly in need because they lost their job or they were furloughed or they're scared to use public transportation.
Huh.
So we know that our response is going to be in phases. That first phase, we increased our fleets. Instead of 3 trucks 7 days a week, we were doing 5 to 6 trucks 7 days a week to meet the demand of surplus. And we partnered with 9 new agencies last month, 34 new food donors, just to start like, okay, let's do this first wave while there
Yeah.
is surplus. We just, in general, a lot of it has been new partnerships. So shout out to Chef Hui and Pacific Gateway Center. They have been
Yes.
collaborators in our first phase of COVID-19 response. with them for the first time, instead of just same day rescuing and redistributing the raw ingredients and food, and even prepared food will rescue, but we are now storing it overnight temporarily at Pacific Gateway. And actually Chef Hui, who is just a grassroots group of restaurant people and local people in the food business who want to help, they're actually helping prepare meals before we then give the food out. We also just last weekend partnered with the city and county of Honolulu to, with their funding, purchase 1,000 bags worth of local produce, local meats and veggies and eggs, rice, as well as recipe cards so people actually can know what to do with the food, as well as flyers with our distribution sites of where they can continue to get free food during COVID-19, and just pass those out, because right now it's not just about supporting the people who are food insecure, it's also about supporting our local farmers, our
Yeah,
local businesses,
thank
everybody right
you.
now.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I read statistically, um, nationally, states that are hit, our unemployment rate is close to 30% right now.
I think
And,
it's
you think
37.
about, yeah, over
Yeah,
37, is that the
yeah.
last? So, man, food industries, hotel industries, I think about, we're near Turtle Bay, and, families that mom and dad worked at Turtle Bay. So there's such a need right now.
Yeah.
But you're right. I think about our dear friends at Kahuku Farms. Shout out to Kylie and her amazing team at Kahuku Farms. We miss going there, and these local farmers. You're right. Lacking that opportunity to provide. If you can, obviously support your local farmers. So I love that you're partnering with local farmers as well to help them and to help distribute what they're producing.
Hmm. Yeah. We had,
What?
oh,
Go
go ahead.
ahead. No, no, go ahead.
Oh. Burbling over with stories. Yeah, I just want to speak to the local farmers and local businesses. And
Please.
again, our community is so beautiful. Like, we've had an explosion of collaborators and people like you who just are coming out and like, how can we help? And it's honestly, it's been a hard time for everyone, but that has been such a bright spot for me, is I'm just like overwhelmed with the good of
Mm.
in people's hearts and wanting to just come together and figure out solutions. But a really great example is a farmer named Ken Milner on the North Shore.
Uh-huh.
Um, he reached out to us because he normally sells this special red leaf gourmet lettuce to really fancy restaurants, and his demand dropped way down because the restaurants again are closing or adapting. And so he was just going to have to throw away his lettuce, but he said, hey, I know this isn't like your normal thing, but could you send volunteers to harvest and rescue it, and then I'll just donate it to the agencies you guys work with. So we've now done like 5 lettuce rescues from him, like entire acre fields. And just the fact that he's going out of his way to think while he's suffering, right? Like, but how can I still make sure at least someone else benefits, even though I'm having a hard time? I just think is so beautiful. And a fun, happy fact about that is that we've been working on securing grants and funding to be able to actually pay farmers like Ken, so that not only do their produce not go to waste, but we can actually continue to help support them. So that's part of our phase 2 response, that if you donate through Do Good Be Kind or directly through alohaharvest.org, that's part of what your money will be going to support.
Oh, I love that story. You're like tearing me up over here. I love those stories, and I think for all of us, you know, when we give, right? When we focus on our own hurt, and I think you're right, we're all hurting in some way right now. I read someone there did, and I really loved it. We're not all in the same boat. We're in the same storm, and we're in very different boats. And some of us have all the means that we have financially. We still have all our financial means, but we're lonely. And some of us have no financial means, and we're struggling, right, in that regard. And we're all in this storm together. And I found, for me personally, the other day it was one of our off days, right? I think we were all just kind of just not feeling it. And I decided on that particular day, I was going to do 2 things. I was going to pick up garbage along our highway.
Nice.
And the simple act of doing that and getting my kids, it shifted the mood, right? The second thing I decided I was going to do is I was going to bake bread for our neighbors. And we have an auntie down the street who, clearly impoverished conditions. And I remember the look on her face when she opened the door, and I was standing there with a loaf of bread, and I just drawn, we love you. And okay, I wasn't 6 feet away. I handed it to her there, and I'll just say that right now.
We'll just
But
edit that.
Yeah, we can edit that out, right? We've been super quarantined for sure, but um, her emotion, right? Her emotion said everything to me to receive this loaf of bread. But what I want to share was what I got in return in walking away, right? As I walked away, I thought, man, it just lifted my spirits and even in my worst day. And so I love to hear this because there is something very beautiful about the culture, the word ohana,
Mhm.
right? It is so real here. And I love the story of these farmers that are giving. I'd love to know, if we have any local restaurants or businesses who aren't partnered with you, how do they reach out to you? What can they do if they're not familiar with your organization? What's the best route for them to get involved?
Yeah, so the best route would actually be going through our website, alohaharvest.org, and you can click Get Involved and donate food. If they're wanting to donate excess food, there's a little form that they can fill out to become a partner in that capacity. If they're interested in partnering in other ways, they can actually email me directly at leslie@alohaharvest.org, or if they go on our website, they'll just see our general email, which will end up, with our team info@alohaharvest.org. Um, there are new opportunities for supporting each other right now. One good example with restaurants is that we wanted to do some kind of mahalo for our volunteers because they have just been the best. And, I will say candidly, I wish there were more ways that I could get people plugged in right now, but temporarily it hasn't been as much opportunities as I wish for just because we were putting so much energy dealing with,
Yeah.
doubling our operations. But we wanted to do Mahalo, so we worked it out where we are opening tabs with 4 local restaurants, and the volunteers can have a meal on us, $25 for each restaurant, so that again we're able to show appreciation for our community while that money is benefiting for local restaurants. So we're very open to stuff like that. And I think the name of the game right now during COVID-19 is just like adaptability and understanding like where each other's strengths lies, and then being open to collaboration and quick adjustments because
Yeah.
I know it'll keep changing. So
Wonderful. Now you mentioned when we talked the other day, you've got a good staff of volunteers. You're really kind of loaded up in that regard. You've got your drivers set up. We're going to provide shirts, by the way, for all of your drivers.
oh, thank you.
So
They'll
that is
love that.
one, they will love that. That is one thing I will ask is that if you can get me shirt sizes for your drivers, we
Yes.
want to provide shirts for all of your drivers. Um, the question I asked the other day, for this community, what would you share? What's the best way they can help? And I know we're going to solicit, funds and information. This is going far and wide. I'm surprised our dear friend Jana isn't on here. She's in Mississippi, so it might be kind of late for her right now. She joins all of our lives. But for anyone who watches from throughout the world, what is the greatest way that they can help right now?
Yeah, I think that answer is looking at what resources they have, and resources can be money, time, skills, knowledge, and finding a conduit to share that right now.
Mm,
So not everybody needs to be out actually on the ground working right now. Actually, if you
yeah,
can stay home, you should. That in itself is
absolutely.
a big way to help. But maybe you can help remotely. So one way that we've adjusted our volunteer program right now is had a lot of volunteers who just did the boring, unglamorous, unpublicized work of helping sort through data because we were dealing with such an influx of information. They were doing spreadsheets, they were
Awesome.
making pivot tables, stuff like that. Someone who helped us keep our website updated when everything was going crazy, and they have basic knowledge of WordPress. Chef Hui is a good example of examining your resources and jumping in. They're people who already have connections in the restaurant industry. They already know how to cook. They know the language, the
Hmm.
what kind of ingredients they need for quick, healthy meals. And so they just jumped in, right? And like that collaboration happened. So yeah, I would say that not just being like, I don't know. I feel like right now everyone wants to help, and like it's easy to be hard on yourself and be like, oh, I'm not doing enough. But even if just what you're doing is like checking in on your friends and family, that's like a
Yeah.
huge service to the world right now. So not to be too vague, but I mean, you did already mention funds, and obviously for any nonprofit, that's a huge piece of what empowers us to continue working. But that's not by any means the only way that you can support. And you can always reach out. Once again, you can email me directly at leslie@alohaharvest.org if you have ideas, which is just like what Chris did. And here we are on Insta Live being able to share this story for people who might not have already known about us, building up advocates who can explain what food rescue is in the community. And if they
Yeah.
want to buy a cool tie-dye shirt, that's awesome as well.
That is awesome as well. I love that you just shared that, Leslie. I love your perspective. Thank you so much. Because I think, we often think about nonprofits and, our only assistance can be monetary. I really appreciate you sharing things like running spreadsheets, things like working in WordPress, maybe writing a blog. I'm sure, if there are some writers on here or creative that would love to share, I'm positive that everyone has some way and some means within their skills, their abilities, their talents, right, that they can lend something, whether it's not monetary, it can just be of time, which a lot of us have a lot more of right now, right?
Yeah.
So,
and even just tagging, right? Tagging Aloha Harvest, sharing a video about what you learned today, or taking a picture, and even on our website, if you want to follow up from what you've learned today, we have a lot of resources on there about general operations, and then if you want to learn more about our COVID-19 response and what kind of has happened this past month, we have a COVID-19 page with an impact report. And yeah, just like the power of story, right? And the power of sharing, like the first time you learn about food rescue, we just experienced, Chris, right? When you were like, whoa, it's that much food that
well,
went away.
I'm walking away thinking we
Yeah,
could solve world hunger today 4 times over. Did I get that number right?
yeah,
4 times over right now if our
yeah.
food distribution was better. Think about that.
Just a system
Yeah,
that prioritizes people as the priority rather than profit.
rather than the
That's all it
profits.
takes. Yeah.
Amazing. Leslie, thank you so much. I'm going to give you the final word on our live. Is there something you've already given us such a blessing with your time? I did have one question on here, and I will ask this actually before you give your final word. Have you seen any miracles? We don't use the word miracles a lot. I love the word miracle because I do believe that even us finding each other and being here right now is no small coincidence. I would love to hear, have you seen any miracles in your time with Aloha Harvest?
That's a good question. I feel like maybe this isn't quite as cool as you'd want, but it's like a very grassroots miracle, like very um but just seeing, I mentioned Pacific Gateway Center as one of our collaborators, and what they do outside of COVID-19 times is they work as a place that empowers immigrants and people
Mm,
who are low income to just, once again, like be self-sustaining, to get the tools and resources they need to live healthy, productive lives. And they are running a weekly food drop in Kaka'ako, which we're partnering with them for. So they're doing drive-through free grocery bags. And if you're Kapuna, you can call and they'll deliver within a certain radius of that drop point. And
Kapuna, for those who don't know, those are elderly, right?
yes,
Yeah,
the elderly.
grandmas and grandpas. That's a really, I don't know how to say it in English. In Spanish, it's tierna. It's a really tender way to say grandma and grandpa, very respectful, loving way to say grandma and grandpa is kapuna. So if you're kapuna, there's a drop point right for them.
Yes.
Yeah.
And just one of the miracles I saw was that one of the like main movers and shakers in that food distribution is a kupuna, an auntie who just
Wow.
has been taking it upon herself to be one of the people out there driving to Kapuna who can't leave their homes for whatever reason. And she's being careful, and she wears her mask, and she practices social distancing. But I think just the miracle of, again, like same with that farmer on the North Shore, Ken Milner, people who have every reason to be kind of like, they have the excuse, they have the pass, right? But they're
Yeah.
just like, I just want to be loving my community right now. I think that's what the thing
Beautiful.
is miraculous.
That is miraculous. And I think it's okay to recognize those as miracles, man. And I guarantee that kapuna that's helping, Leslie, she's going to outlive all of us. I have no
Right.
doubt. Right?
Right.
She will, because that's how she lives her life. I love that. Leslie, thank you so much for being willing to do this with us. AlohaHarvest.org. I'm with Leslie Pio from Aloha Harvest. You can email her at We're bringing Leslie back in. Hold on just a second. Oh, are you there?
Sorry, I think that, yeah,
No,
me. Okay.
there we go. Are we back together?
Yes.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
I was just a call just came in, so I was just saying you can email Leslie at alohaharvest.org. You can visit their website. Locally, I think this is if you're joining us not from Oahu, from somewhere else, locally, look into food recovery in your area.
Mhm.
I love what you just shared too. If you have bananas that are almost to go out, send them directly to our house. We will make chocolate banana muffins.
Yes.
Right? I love it when the bananas are almost bad because I know I'm going to get chocolate banana muffins in just a few days. Leslie, thank you so much for your time today. Any final parting words of wisdom from you from everybody? Aloha, Andy. Anything you'd like to share?
Yes, I will share real quick resources for if you are in need of food. You can go to chefhui.com/resources, and we've partnered with them and Hawaii Children's Action Network, Hawaii Appleseed, and several other partners to kind of have a collective where every place you can get free food daily during COVID-19 is mapped out statewide. It's updated every day. So we also, besides food, there's Kapuna Care, there's I think there's like shelter. There's a lot of other information on resources there. So definitely chefhui.com/resources if you're in need of food. And then I cannot remember the URL right now, but if you just Google food rescue in the US, there's a specific site where you can search by state and see if there is a food rescue organization near you that you could either volunteer with or that you could see, how they're helping and if you're in need of food. So just,
Yeah,
yeah.
wonderful. Someone just said this was incredible. Andy, my good friend in California, is here. Black bananas make great hamakua banana bread.
Oh, that
Prove
sounds good.
it.
Yeah, he should send a recipe. Send the recipe.
Maybe you could DM us the recipe and we'll share that out
Yeah.
with our followers here. Thank you. chefhui.com/resources. If anyone is in need, if anyone is hungry, if you know somebody, and I love how you said too, it doesn't even have to be, there's a certain stigma that comes with receiving food. I know that, right? And this is a time. Sorry.
Um,
I can
yeah.
say this. I'm just thinking about times that we've been the recipients of food, my family, and how grateful I am. So there's no need to ever feel ashamed, or if you have someone that knows it, you can do it anonymously. There's resources there for all of us. Leslie, thank you so very much.
Thank you so much, Chris. And
Okay,
thank you for joining. Aloha.
absolutely. Aloha. Okay, I'm so grateful. Brittany just joined. Seriously, just lost it in the last few minutes there. So grateful for organizations like Aloha Harvest. If you are in Oahu, if you're in need of assistance, if you are in your own state, look up food recovery if you're in need of food. There are organizations, there's farmers, there's so much good to be found. And chefhui.com, let me just spell that for you. It's chef, CHEF, HUI, chefhui.com/resources. Again, tremendous resources here on the islands for those who are in need of food. We love all of you. Thank you so much for being part of this Do Good, Be Kind community. We love Aloha Harvest. We're so excited to be able to help them with their mission and to make sure that we can help people lift each other. Have a fantastic rest of your day. We'll talk to you soon. Aloha.